I'm so excited to do this particular video, and I think that the best thing about it is that not a lot of people are very willing to do what I do, because I learned that even though I am doing content in relations to motivation, personal growth and relationship, is that I feel like I need to challenge the norm. What we already think that it's okay, that's how society thinks about things. So we are so comfortable and we are maintaining the facade, yet a lot of us know that some of these things are not even accurate, they are not right, and the way we approach it affects us at the end of the day. How many of you know that a lot of us do not understand, do not know, do not even want to dare to tell anyone about our weaknesses and our shortcomings, because we feel like people will judge us, people will criticize us, people will do A, B, C and D, and because I don't want people in that my space, my personal space, let me not expose my weaknesses in that sense. And we end up being frustrated, we end up battling with a lot of things, when we can actually find people to walk with us and stand with us in this journey of life. Today, I want us to talk about vulnerability and how powerful it can be to help us in our relationships, in relating with people, and even just naturally to just make us better human beings. Because of course, we are all struggling with something. So welcome to this channel. My name is Ndung'u. I will be taking you through a very amazing, interesting, good video. So let's go into the video and have fun. Vulnerability is the willingness to show emotions or to allow one's weakness to be seen. It's about being open to sharing our true selves, including our fears, insecurities, and struggles. I know that a lot of us are scared of doing the same, but when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we invite others to do the same, creating a safe space for authentic connections. So some of you will be asking, so if I am vulnerable to someone, how can I trust them for them to be vulnerable as well? Or how can I trust them with that information? How sure am I that they will not tell it somewhere? But wait, before we even think about that, put those questions on hold. Let us talk about some of the benefits, and then we will touch some of those answers that you have in your head concerning vulnerability. So the first benefit that we can talk about in terms of vulnerability is it strengthens relationship. And how does it do that? When we share our true selves, we build trust and intimacy with others, and vulnerability fosters deeper, meaningful connections. So in terms of connecting, I will give an example at this particular point. When you form a friendship with someone and you have related for a while, especially for ladies, the minute that you become people who can call each other best friends is when probably you did something together that was not something that you wanted people to see and to know, and they have kept that as a secret and they have not told anyone. So that fosters and creates a stronger bond that helps that relationship to be cemented. So it is the same thing with a relationship. What you can do is start small, but we will get to probably how you can do it. But once you share, especially with someone that you're relating with on a sexual on a romantic kind of relationship, it causes them to also be like, oh, so you have gone through this, so these are things that you're struggling with, so these are your fears, so these are some of the struggles you have, some insecurities that you're struggling with. And what in turn they do is that they tend to actually protect you when such a thing is about to happen. When the things that you fear are about to happen, they are the people who will be there guiding you, walking with you, encouraging you in that journey. And it is just an amazing experience when you see someone that you love defend you and protect you from some of the things that you fear, you have insecurities with, or you struggle with. The second one is It encourages empathy. By being open about our struggles, we allow others to empathize with us, creating a bond based on shared experiences. Sindo, I know that one thing that we all can attest to is that there is nothing new under the sun. So a lot of us either go through similar situations or the same. It's just that it had different characters. So when it was happening to me, maybe it was a different season, it was a different time, it was maybe a different location. But the one thing that is true is that we have shared or common experiences. So how is that helping us with empathy? It is helpful because you see, when you share your weaknesses and your vulnerabilities and insecurities, this other person can relate to you and they can actually empathize with you because they understand you. They have been through something either similar or the same or even worse. So it's coming from a place of, by the way, I have been through this thing, I understand you, now I get you, and because I do, it is easier for us to work together. So is that the reason why maybe you're scared of opening up? Because you're heartbroken? I know the feeling, because this is how I dealt with my kind of heartbreak. So if you're dealing with it that way, then I can walk with you. So it helps actually even to help someone to stand with you and to walk the journey with you. And you will wonder when you're seeing people who are a couple, and a lot of people are there thinking, what is this guy doing with this lady? This lady is A, B, C, and D. She is F, D, and G. You know, like she has this and this and this and these problems. But it is because the person they are relating with has been explained why, by the way, I have a hot temper. Maybe the reason why I am going through A, B, C, and D, or I react the way I do, is because I am going through C, D, and F. And that is why I am a very good person, but I am struggling. So if you can walk with me in that journey, then that's amazing. And people out here will be wondering, these two people, they don't even look like they understand one another. If this guy, for example, for those that know the things that you have done, yeah, in the secret, and they're like, this guy does not know what he got himself into, or this lady, if she knew what she's getting herself into, you know, those things, and they're wondering, so how is this? But because the two of you were vulnerable to each other and communicated, there was the evoking of the empathy, and then now you decide, by the way, you know what, this is cementing the relationship is getting deeper, you know, you are understanding one another, and then that helps the relationship to grow and to become better. The other thing is promotes personal growth. Embracing vulnerability can lead to self-discovery and growth. It helps us confront our fears and develop resilience. So how do we do that? The one thing I learned, especially even after going through some of the difficult seasons of my life, according to my experiences, is that once I opened up, I learned that I grow, I develop, and of course, because of sharing, you get people encouraging you and others telling you their stories as well, because it causes you guys to open up. And once you are vulnerable to people and they tell you their vulnerabilities as well, they also help you in self-discovery. They're like, you know what, you're a very strong person. If you are able to endure A, B, and C, you know, that boosts you, and that actually helps you to understand yourself and to self-discover and to learn a lot about yourself and about the things that you can handle and cannot. So of course, being vulnerable is very important in promoting personal growth. And also, it also comes from, also you can look at it from this angle of, if I am willing to open up in terms of just dealing with my insecurities and sharing them with someone, then I am ready to overcome them, because this person will not only empathize, but they can also walk the journey of healing with me. So it is a benefit for you because it will promote growth, especially if you have a partner that will walk through that journey and encourage you as well, even to grow and become better. The other thing is reduces isolation. When we share our vulnerabilities, we often find others who feel the same way. reducing feelings of loneliness and isolation. If there's something that all of us are personally battling on our secret place, is that when you're going through something, you always think and feel like you're the only one that is going through this thing. Yet you might actually be surprised that not just only you, but a lot of people are going through the same thing, or even worse than you are. So once you talk about it, you open up the room for other people to actually come to your space and be like, by the way, you know, I'm also going through this and this. I will give an example here. When we lost our pregnancy, and I shared that as a testimony in church, and we got a lot of people after the service that came and were encouraging me, one, and two, that were also sharing experiences of also loss that they have gone through, and others I came to understand that went through multiple losses. I was there grieving alone, thinking, by the way, we are the only couple that has lost a pregnancy, and it was very painful, it was very hurtful, it was a very lonely journey, especially because even in the marriage, the two of you do not mourn the same way. In a relationship, you do not mourn the same way. So the way I expected my husband to mourn was not the way he mourned, and we actually were in very different platforms and very different scenarios, and that also was something that I needed help with. And when I opened up and I was like, you know what, we went through this, and this is how we this is where we are at, and where God has caused us to get to, I came to understand that by the way, a lot of people have gone through loss in their marriages, and they don't have an outlet to actually talk about it, and they're there hurting, struggling, thinking that they are alone. Yet there are other people who can actually hold your hand and be like, you know what, it's not like we're holding you to make you feel okay with the loss, or to make you feel okay with whatever struggle it is that you're going through. It's just to tell you, by the way, you're not alone. And not alone in terms of like it should happen again and we are here. No, alone in terms of like it's not lonely anymore. We can walk the journey even as we believe God for just improving the situation and turning it around. Okay, so we are going to talk about why should you embrace vulnerability. I asked you guys that question. How sure am I that, you know, because I know that there's someone who is watching this video and they will be asking me, how sure am I if I open up? Because you see, for some of you are in the dating stage, so you haven't gotten into marriage where you can fully completely trust someone. So you're there wondering, how can I embrace it, or how can I deal with it? Okay, so the first thing that you can do is start small. And by starting small, I mean begin with small insecurities, shortcomings. Of course, number one, to test the trust of that particular person, and also to allow them to also share something. The good thing about vulnerability is it goes both ways. It's the same thing as the way you say that I love you, and you expect the same measure or excessive kind of love. So when you open up and you see the response that you're getting, as long as the person you're being vulnerable to is also being vulnerable to you, it's like both of you are sharing some intimate thing. It causes you to build a safe zone for the both of you, a comfortable place and a comfortable area for you to just be open. If there's one thing personally I know how to do, is just be vulnerable. Everywhere I go, I'm just being myself, because sometimes I feel like the world is so full of people who are struggling and trying so hard to just do all the things that seem right, and yet you're struggling. Why don't you just be open and be like, that is hard for me, I can't do it, or something, you get help and we move on. So personally, I am the kind that just, let's talk about this, it's an issue, can we just deal with it? Okay, so you can start small, as I've said. Start small and continue building, even in terms of like how deep you will get. And then again, analyze your kind of relationship that you have. If you are sure, because if there's something I learned when I was dating, is that you actually can know if the relationship is going somewhere or not. Because in the inner part of you, you're like, this relationship is not going anywhere. And there are two kinds of people. You might be thinking that the relationship is going somewhere, but for the other party, it is not the same. So also that you can judge that by how vulnerable they are getting or they are being, because when you share intimate details and then they're not sharing or they're not giving, they're just there acting like, me, I don't have weaknesses or insecurities, then that means that that is not the safe space that you need also to just pour your heart out. Although there are people who honestly don't feel the need of sharing how vulnerable they are, they don't feel like sharing their fears, insecurities, or weaknesses and struggles, but you can read, if you observe that person, you're like, this person doesn't share, but I have noticed that this is a weak spot for them, this is a weakness for them, this is a struggle for them. So also the dynamics of the relationship can help you to analyze, but the base point is start small. And then the other thing is practice active listening. One thing about vulnerability is communication. It is talking and receiving feedback, and you want people who will be listening and who will be understanding. It is not a kind of moment for someone to be distracted, because they will be like, what were you saying? You said what? Because when you're sharing vulnerability, you don't want someone asking you questions of things that you have probably elaborated so effectively, because they were not listening, so they are asking again so that they can try and understand the story. So you need someone who will listen and be an active listener and participate in listening. We listen, but we don't judge. That is the kind of thing that you need to also embrace as you are also talking about being vulnerable. Show empathy and understanding. This not only strengthens your bond, but also encourages the other person to open up more, and even for you to open up again. Sindo. Okay, so be honest about your feelings. Don't shy away from expressing how you feel, whether joy, sadness, or anxiety. Sharing your emotions can create a deeper connection with others. I think that is self-explanatory. So it's more or less about, even when you're sharing your vulnerabilities, just be authentic. If that vulnerability you're sharing makes you feel sad, just be sad and flow with it. Don't try and fake it while you're saying it. You're sad, but you're trying to smile or something of the sort. If it makes you joyful, then be joyful. Don't fake it by trying to be sad so that you can relate to someone else's and try to evoke that empathy by force. The other thing is create safe spaces. Foster environments where vulnerability is welcomed. This could be in your friendships, family gatherings, or even in professional settings. Encourage open dialogue and support. The other thing is reflect on your experiences. Take time to think about moments when you felt vulnerable. What did you learn from those experiences? How did they impact your relationships? Reflecting can help you understand the value of vulnerability. So we are talking about not just sharing so that you can also relate with the other person, but on a personal level. How does that relationship, that vulnerability make you feel, and what have you learned from that particular vulnerability? Because if you are learning from your vulnerability, then that means you're growing, and the chances of you either repeating or overcoming that vulnerability are very high. Okay, so you won't be able to struggle. If it is a struggle, it will eventually come to a place where it ends, because you have mastered yourself and you have learned, and now you know how to either, if it is something that triggers you, then you have learned the trigger points and you're able to avoid them, and then you won't repeat that thing that is now what you're sharing as a vulnerability. If it is a struggle that you have, then again, because of sharing and you learning from, of course, the experience, then you know that by the way, I struggle with this thing. So you're very self-aware in terms of, these are my struggles, and this is how probably I would want to approach dealing with them, or how I'm dealing with them, and the likes. So yeah, so that is the importance. So the last thing I want us to talk about is how overcoming fear of vulnerability. We have talked about, we are in a society that talks about how you are not supposed to share too much of your information with the people out here because of so many other reasons. But I want to emphasize that many of us fear judgment and rejection, and that is why we are afraid of being vulnerable. And here are some of the ways you can overcome these fears. The first thing is acknowledge your fears. Recognize that it is normal to feel afraid. Acknowledging your fear is the first step towards overcoming them. We have talked about fear in another vlog. Go check it out. But that is basically it. Because you are afraid, then you won't be able to share, and the more you're not able to share, then you won't be able to overcome that particular thing that you're vulnerable with or about. So it is very important to acknowledge your fears so that you can overcome them and so that you can share. And the truth is that all of us are afraid. Even for us who are in your spaces every now and then, we are always afraid of criticism, but we do content creation nonetheless, and the criticism does come. So sometimes you just decide, you know what, I embrace it and I'm ready to deal with it. So whatever comes my way, I will deal with it, because I have decided, by the way, this is a platform that I am in and this is where I want to be, and I want to continue creating content. So of course I need to deal with the fears that come with that. The other thing is reframe vulnerability. Reframe vulnerability. Instead of seeing vulnerability as a weakness, view it as a strength. It takes courage to be open and honest. So vulnerable people, especially when you say that I'm vulnerable, people tend to think that you're weak. People tend to think that you are struggling with that and it's a battle and or whatever, so you're not okay, and they tend to look at you as a victim. But the truth is, when you look at it from the right eye, it is a strength, because the honest truth, as we have talked as our first point, is that a lot of people are afraid of their vulnerabilities. So because they are afraid, they tend to think that when you are talking about yours, you have become too weak, that you cannot handle it. But the truth is, if you are ready to overcome your fears and you are talking about it, you are the strongest person that is alive, because it takes a lot of courage to talk about your weakness, to talk about some of the struggles that you go through, even in marriage, even in relationships. It takes a lot of courage. So be encouraged, don't feel shy, reframe vulnerability so that you can enjoy its benefit in your relationship. The other thing is surround yourself with supportive people. Build a network of friends and family who encourage vulnerability. Their support can make it easier to share your true self. I also want to talk about parents that have male children. My husband and I disagree, especially on how we train him matters emotional, because he's telling him, you're a man, you need to be strong, you're not supposed to cry. And then me, I'm here thinking this baby is going through pain. For example, if you beat him, he will feel pain, so you don't want him to cry. If he withholds that pain, then in future he's susceptible to suicide. He's susceptible, is he's very he can be easily affected by suicidal thoughts and such things. But when he embraces the fact that, by the way, this is painful, I need to cry, probably not, if it is something that we are talking about, you don't let people see it, then go cry. Tell him, go and cry there in the bedroom when the door is closed. And when he's older, he will know, by the way, I need an outlet, but maybe not in front of people, because there's also how they are looking at me as a man and as a provider. So like, find an outlet, just don't do it probably in the presence of people. So if you are surrounding yourself with supportive people, they should be people who know that, by the way, this is something that is happening. Please stop telling men that they should not cry. For the life of me, I would want to see my husband cry, because that part of him being vulnerable in that manner just makes it easier to relate with him. And also because us as women, we are emotional creatures. So the minute I connect with you on also an emotional part and an emotional place, it is easier for us to converse, for me to understand. And because we are emotional, it is also easy for me to actually walk with you even in a journey where probably you're struggling. So surround yourself with people who not just support it, but also are there to encourage you, to promote you, to actually be vulnerable. Environments where vulnerability is celebrated and it is not looked at as a weakness. And when we are talking about vulnerability, we are not saying that you come and tell us that this is the way I am and I will never change. We are not talking about those kind of things that you say, mimi nakwanga hivyo na msiwai niletea, so that's why I'm sharing. No, we are talking about vulnerability of you are actually aware that this is something that you need to either overcome or change or something. So if we are in that page, then that environment where supportive vulnerability is there, then that actually is very good. The last thing is practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Understand that everyone has vulnerabilities and it is okay not to be not to have everything figured out. As a presenter that is doing vulnerability, the one thing that I actually tell myself is that one, I need to be perfect, I need to be A, B, C, D, and D, because you know what, I am standing in front of people and I need to encourage them, so I need to be okay, I need to have dealt with myself, I need everything to be fine with me, I need my marriage to be okay, because how can you tell people about marital something if your marriage is not working? But the honest truth is that all of us are vulnerable to something. We are struggling with something, and if there's something that I have learned, oh my goodness, that I will never give myself pressure with, is trying to be perfect, especially for the sake of the likes. I am as authentic as I can be, and when things are not okay, I take time, I cry, I heal, I help myself. I am very comfortable with my space, and I want us to also get to that level where we are comfortable even with the weaknesses that we have. The honest truth is that even me as a presenter, talking about vulnerability, is that I know that I have my own shortcomings, but I am so comfortable with myself, because you see, if you are not, then people will be so easy, you will be so easily weighed, so easily changed and all that. If you look at our media, and if you look at our our so-called influencers and socialites, some of them go to the extent of changing who they are, bleaching, adding asses, adding boobs, and adding other things, because you know what, they knew that by then this is a vulnerability for me, but because I am not embracing it, let me change it. And you find yourself, as much as you have the money, as much as when you change you look better, you have lost something that is authentic about yourself. So now we are there, maybe liking the photos, but at the end of the day, we are saying that this person is struggling with self-identity, because you don't know yourself. That is why you're so easily weighed and so easily changed. One thing I also did, because you saw a lot of people that do content creation have a lot of makeup on, of course, because they want to look nice and they want to get the views because of course of appearance and presentation. But the other thing I came to realize is that I'm also beautiful regardless of whether I have makeup on or not. I just want to be my authentic self. When I feel like dolling myself up before I come to do a video, then I'll do that, but I don't feel like it is a must to do thing every time I am shooting content. So you see, we have different ways of looking at things. So be comfortable with your vulnerabilities, because if you are, it makes life easier. Like there is a time when I was a bit younger, I was still in the media space, acting and all that, and I had a lot of acne. I think because I did not break out in high school, I broke out after high school. So I was 20, I think 21 there, about to roughly 25. My face was not beautiful at all. It had a lot of acne. I did not want to try any soap, so I was trying the natural kind of things. I was applying aloe vera here and there. Was it working? I'm not very sure. But eventually my skin cleared out. Though I might have, I'm not sure. I will confirm. I might have a few of the evidences of what happened. But at that particular time, I felt that I needed makeup all the time, because I wanted to conceal and hide the acne. But the problem is, because the face is struggling, every time, for example, I have washed and then after I'm done, I'm not giving this pimple enough time. I am not even encouraging myself to wait and finish. So my pimples, and then I add makeup on top, meaning that my face becomes worse. It is not healing. So if I had given it a lesser period of time, just decided by the way, you know what, it might not be looking nice, but I needed to embrace it for a certain period, I would have healed faster. But it took 4 years longer because I was so busy trying to hide and conceal, because I didn't want people to see it. So when you hide and conceal your shortcomings and vulnerabilities, it makes it so hard for you to even embrace what is just easy for you, and also to heal, because healing sometimes comes by acceptance. If you accept, for example, like I have given an example of the way I had acne, if I had accepted it and just left it alone, just maintain it and make sure it's clean, and I give it time to aerate, it would have been so easy for the breakage to end, because then again haina a lot of uchafu that is being added on top of it. But because I was trying to hide it and conceal it, it took even longer, so I didn't deal with it as I should have. So you also need to also allow yourself and give yourself grace period and love on yourself and be kind to yourself, because if you're not kind to yourself, who will be kind to you? The scripture says that we love with the same measure that we love others, with the same measure we love ourselves. So if you don't love yourself, then of course you will not love other people, and that same love will not be given to you, because when you're not giving people authentic love, then of course they cannot love you the same way or even more than you're giving. So thank you so much. So in conclusion, embracing vulnerability can lead to deeper, more meaningful connections in our lives, and it allows us to build trust, foster empathy, and create a sense of belonging. Remember, vulnerability is not about oversharing or exposing yourself to harm. It's about being authentic and open in a way that invites others to do the same. Cindy, so I challenge you to take a small step this week. Share something personal with someone you trust. You might be surprised how it strengthens your relationship and encourages them to open up as well. If you found this video helpful to you, my kind request, kindly subscribe, kindly share with someone else that you think by then needs to hear this video, so that they can grow themselves and make themselves better. Cindy, I love you, I love you, I love you. I appreciate you for coming, I appreciate you for watching. I do, however, have a request for you. I have other videos that I have done. Some I have put in the playlist that is there. Just go check it out, and I'm sure that you will learn more. There's also a video that I did. Go check it out, and I'm sure that you will be blessed. Asante sana. See you on the next one.